Love and Death Episode 3 begins in October 1979. Following Allan and Betty's return from the marital encounter, Candy's daughter informs Candy that Betty and Allan's daughter stated that she was concerned about what other people thought of her. Candy tells Allan that her daughter, Elisa, probably picked up on Betty's comment. Candy is dismissed by Allan as making too much of it. Candy inquires about the marriage meeting. Allan describes how, after attending the event, Betty and he were very honest with one another, which helped rescue their relationship. Candy can only imagine how honest Allan has been with Betty, given that he is still having an affair with Candy. Allan implies that the marital meeting did not indicate that he really needed to put a stop to his affair with Candy, but she makes a choice for the two of them. Candy informs Allan that she has no plans to hook up with him and will leave it up to him to determine if he wants to be in a relationship with her. Candy is shocked that Allan is so casual about calling it quits with her. She believes that he ignored Candy's sentiments and emotions in order to prioritize Betty's. Candy has been trying to forget Allan for weeks. Sherry advises that the two of them start a painting and wallpapering business, so she begins redecorating her kitchen. Candy is preoccupied with Allan and largely ignores what Sherry is saying to her. Candy informs Sherry that she is not upset with Allan, but with the sensation of rejection. Betty's paranoia spirals out of control after she suffers shooting pains in her breast and suspects she has cancer. Her doctor, on the other hand, thinks she's fine and tells her to stop taking her birth control pills. Candy, on the other hand, tries to distract herself from Allan but still decides to call him. She tells him about Betty and the lumps on her breast that she believes are cancerous. Candy inquires about it with Betty, who finds it strange that Allan would reveal something so intimate with Candy. Before Allan returns home, the two women have an uneasy talk. Allan drops Candy off at her car, where she informs Allan that Betty appears to be a completely different person. Following the marriage experience, Allan offers that Candy attend the event with Pat as well. Betty observes Allan and Candy's conversation through the window. Candy discusses the marriage meeting with Pat that night. Pat labels it a cult, but agrees to go along with it since Candy wants it. Candy tells Sherry about her plan to rediscover herself through her marriage and her new business, the Cover Girls, with Sherry as her partner. The next day, Candy takes a visit to the new church sanctuary and informs Ron about her venture. Later that weekend, Candy and Pat attend a marriage encounter where the couple struggles to express their thoughts to one another. Candy is enraged because Pat wrote song lyrics instead of writing about his feelings for her. The couple eventually opens up to each other and talks about what they actually want out of life and from their relationship. Candy informs Sherry about her improved connection with Pat, including her sex life, as a result of the experience. She says she no longer thinks about Allan and that she's moved on. However, right then, Betty calls Candy and invites her and Pat to supper. Candy informs Allan of the offer, claiming that meeting him in person will rekindle her emotions for him. They decide to put their affair behind them in order to go on and live as friends. Candy and Pat join Betty and Allan for dinner. Betty inquires if Candy and Pat were following through on the tasks assigned to them during the visit. Candy leaves for a Bible study weekend trip. After the supper goes well, Candy tells Sherry on the way there that she doesn't have many feelings for Allan. Candy informs Sherry that she may be over Allan. Pat is upset when she discovers a love letter from Allan to Candy at home. Pat approaches Sherry in her salon the next day and inquires about the affair. He inquires whether the affair is over, and Sherry responds that it is. Sherry attempts to persuade Pat about her best buddy. Pat begs Sherry to hide this from Candy because he wants to talk to her about it. Candy returns home from her trip and receives a phone call from Sherry. Candy warns him that Pat is aware of the affair, and she tries to remain calm during the evening in order to evaluate Pat's reaction. Pat shares a letter he wrote for Candy that night, which causes Candy to cry. Candy apologizes to Pat, and the couple considers how they may make their marriage work now that the affair is over. Candy feels guilty for betraying Pat, but she is relieved that she no longer has anything to conceal from her husband. Candy is still as busy as ever after a few months. Candy's daughter requests that Betty and Allan's daughter accompany the family to the movies. Candy agrees to the request, but only if Betty accepts. Allan leaves on a 2-day business trip, but Betty is concerned about being pregnant for the 3rd time before going for work. Allan tries to console her through her breakdown. Candy, meanwhile, is having some summer fun with the congregation's children and departs to see Betty. Candy asks Elisa whether she can join the Montgomery family for a film screening at Betty's place. Betty accepts and requests that Candy drive Elisa to her pool session. Betty informs Candy about the family's trip to Swiss and announces the adoption of another dog. Candy entertains the dogs while the 2 women discuss Candy's new venture. Betty openly inquires if Candy is having an affair with Allan. Candy initially denies it, but then admits and apologizes to her. Betty is inconsolable and attempts to calm down. As the program concludes, she goes to the laundry room and pulls out an axe.